Oh, my internet connection is unstable. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar, More People, More Problems, How to Increase Performance and Limit Liability, presented by Scott Mastley. Today, you can find the slides up in the event board in the top right, and your chat moderation in the bottom right is available. If you want to chat in any questions, they will be hidden so that only Scott and I can see them. You will receive an email within 24 hours with your credit codes and a link to the recording. Hopefully it will be there sooner. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Mastley. Take it away.
All right. Thanks, Barb. I really appreciate it. I'm Scott Mastley. I'm the Chief Human Resources Officer for Thread. And if you're not familiar with us, we sell an iSolved payroll platform, which is an end-to-end payroll platform. And then we also help our clients with HR support, HR consulting. Our mission is high performance, high culture companies. That's what's really important to us, is help small businesses and growing businesses grow effectively without losing employee engagement, without losing performance, and without exposing themselves to unnecessary liability. So that's what we're talking about today, is how do you grow and deal with the problems that come along with growth? And that's what this title is about: more people, more problems. So let's get into it. Anybody who is doing this for credit, if you're a certified HR person like me, then that's really important to you to keep your credits up so you don't have to take that test again. And you will get a follow-up email with the codes for your credits for HRCI and for SHRM as well within about 24 hours. So what do I mean by more people, more problems? What is that about? Well, as you grow, growth creates a lot of challenges for any small business, whether you're growing from 5-employee business to a 20-employee business, or a 20-employee business to a 50-employee business, or up to several hundred, right? The issues are very similar. And there's a lot of stuff to deal with. So the more people you have, the more challenges you have. And I don't mean it in a negative way, because it's part of the positivity of growth. And growth is an exciting thing, and it creates a lot of great opportunities as well. But I want you to be aware of what are some of those challenges that are going to come up here. And you're going to encounter resistance to change. There will be people on your team who don't like the way growth feels. They don't like the fact that it might be different and may change processes or things like that. You may have new compliance issues with your company because now you've expanded into other states who have much different state laws in terms of paid sick leave and final pay and access to employee files and jury duty and drug testing and all kinds of stuff like that. So you got to be aware about what those are. You may have new competitors as you grow, because whereas before you were playing in a smaller sandbox, now your name is starting to be known and you're drawing attention and you're getting bigger clients, and you're going to have a little more competition as well. You may outgrow your space, right? With the pandemic recently, a lot of organizations have consider whether or not they want to renew their office leases, or if they're going to go hybrid or fully remote or change locations, because now there's more office space available. So those are decisions that come up as well. You might need to look at how you're handling performance management. So as you grow and you get employees who are more spread out or remote or not, you might need to look at your performance processes and the metrics and how you're evaluating performance. If you're not all together in the office anymore, your managers have got to have a better system of tracking, measuring performance, giving feedback to employees, and staying attentive to that. Other things you need to think about is, you might be tempted to skip certain processes because of the pressure on your time and your schedule. You might want to shorten your onboarding time for new employees. And I'm going to encourage you to resist that urge, no matter how strong it is. You might be tempted to provide less training for your supervisors and your managers. And that's a mistake as well that happens often when companies are growing. I have been building HR consulting teams and consulting directly with small businesses for almost 20 years in my HR career. And I can tell you that I have seen this over and over and over again. It is not a challenge that's unique to any specific industry. It's across the board. As you grow and you get busy, some of the things that matter tend to get brushed aside a little bit. So we're going to talk about those as well. You will have unexpected issues, right? And those unexpected issues are going to be things like a little more gossip, a little more of the rumor mill going on. Like, why are we doing this? Did you see that? Did you see those people had a special meeting? Who's this new person who walked into our office? What's going on? Why did we change this or change that? So we're going to talk about how to deal with that as well. Other things that can happen as you grow and you get more people is you may have a little more turnover along the way, because no matter how great we think we are at recruiting and interviewing and judging people, a lot of managers think they have this superhuman skill, which is, I know how to read people. I can judge people right away. Not usually the case in my experience, but sometimes people interview really well and then they turn out to be terrible employees. It just happens to all of us. And, you're going to have a little turnover. Not 100% of your new hires are going to work out and be as great as you thought they might be. So that's part of the situation. It just is what it is. Why would you choose this? You have all these challenges and problems that are coming along with growth. Why do you do it? Well, as you grow and you get a little bigger, you get to help more people. You help more of your employees by creating growth opportunities for them, maybe giving them access to better benefits because of your size, right? Or what you can afford as a company, giving them opportunities to develop in their career path, which might mean you retain them longer, which gives you more productivity, better quality, less of all of the problems that come along with turnover, like claims and theft and workers' comp fraud and all that other stuff that we want to avoid. So think of this as a great opportunity. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to go from 10 employees to 200 employees in a year. You can do it slowly, steadily, or you can just bang it out. That's up to you, how much risk you can handle. But as you increase the value of the company and you grow, you create opportunities for your employees. You may be able to develop new capabilities that you're able to deliver to your clients and customers as well, which is also why most of us are in business, is we want to help people. We want to help specific customers we work with, and we want to help our employees as much as we can. So that's really what this is about. Now you can chat questions into the chat anytime you want, and I will be looking at those throughout today's presentation. I'll answer them when I get a chance. Remember, everybody is muted because we're recording, and I'll answer questions as I go along. So the thing about human resources is that most of us who are in HR did not choose HR originally. There are a few folks who chose HR in the beginning and said, this is what I want to do. Those people are great, but they're rare. Almost every HR person I know at some point was nominated to be in HR for whatever reason. They were good at being the office manager, the executive assistant, or the operations manager, or whatever it was. And somebody said, we need you in HR, or you're going to keep your current job, but you're also going to be in charge of HR. I work with a lot of CFOs and company owners and practice managers as well, who are handling 10 different things besides HR. And we also work with HR directors and HR managers in supporting their teams. And the thing about HR is that most people try to avoid it. It's like seeing an Amway salesperson, it's like avoid eye contact, just look the other way, because nobody wants to get sucked into HR. They're like, oh, HR deals with all these problems. They get all the problems and everything gets piled onto their plate. I mean, HR people are like, look, how did I get in charge of running a forklift rodeo for the company? I'm an HR person. How am I planning a golf tournament or creating a scholarship fund or looking into stock options? HR is so broad, and HR people are expected to know everything, that it's easy to feel like you're on an island and nobody really understands what you're doing, even if your title is not solely HR. So this is what we're here to help you with, is we're here to help you, to be a resource for you, to support you, give you as much information as we can. So call us anytime, even if you're not a client. We want to talk to you and help you out as much as we can, and talk to you about how we do that with small and growing businesses, because it's lonely being on an island by yourself, and it's great to have support to save you time and to give you resources and to help you be in compliance and get things done. So we're here for you. So what happens when you start to move really quickly? Well, the quicker you move, the more pressure there is to do everything else quicker. So let's say you're in a recruiting process and you posted a job and you got, 20 candidates, right? The temptation is, I'm going to hire one of those candidates because I don't have time to post this job again. I don't have time to screen another whole group of candidates. And most of y'all know when you post a job now, sometimes it's more like 80 or 100 candidates right away. So that's a time beast, right? It just eats your time up. And your temptation is to do that quicker. Let's shorten the process. Let's just hire people quicker. Let's do blah, 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 blah. But you got to step back sometimes and say, okay, let's make sure we're doing it intelligently. Let's make sure we're being intentional about it. And if we want to shorten the process, then let's work on the process itself instead of just taking the existing process and going, we're skipping parts of it and we're just jumping on it, right? Let's work on the process, fix it, make it so it's quicker, but also very effective. So we identify what we're looking for. What are the successful traits of candidates in this position? What questions help us get at the skills and traits we're looking for a fit for our company and our team and everything else? What are the deal breakers? What are the must-haves? All of those things. So identify all that ahead of time. It takes work. And as you're growing, it's harder to scramble back. So a lot of companies who call us do it because they say, we're about to start really growing. Let's get all of this stuff in place. Let's do our audits. Let's get our processes documented. Let's make sure our training is in place, all of these things, because when we start really growing, it's going to be that much harder to scramble back and do all this because we're going to be so busy. So the time to do all of this is now, not later, not after you've grown. I mean, if you've already grown and now is now for you, then jump on it. But if ideally you have the opportunity to do some of this stuff before you hit your giant growth spurt, then that's the time to do it. So another temptation is you hire a new employee, and every manager I've ever known, including myself, has the urge to say, I have other things to do. Can we skip parts of this onboarding process or this orientation process for our new employee? And what that does is shortchanges your new employees, because that new employee experience is really important these days. And you want to give them the time they need to understand the job, the company, who your customers are, what you do, what you're really about, what your values are, so they understand how to buy into that, what your culture is. All of that is worth the time, even if I know you're so anxious to get that new employee to work doing what you hired that person to do. But let them have that time to ease into it. Give them somebody to connect to ask questions, like a peer-to-peer connection, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. You're going to have to learn to trust your employees a little bit more as you grow, because you might not have the time to follow up and manage everything as closely as you used to. And you have to hire people that you can trust and build trust into your system, and you have to work on trust. One of the things that can hurt any initiative is lack of trust. If employees don't trust the leadership or don't trust their manager, that's a problem, because they're usually unwilling to go along or to collaborate on things when there's a lack of trust. So you have to work on that and be intentional about it and build it. The best way you can do that is do what you say you're going to do. And if you've hired a group of new employees, after 2 weeks, a month, ask your new employees, are we who we say we are? Do we do what we say we're going to do? And they'll give you some honest feedback and say, this was a little off, or yeah, this is exactly what I expected based on what you told me. Same thing with your customers, right? You've sold them a service or a product, and don't be afraid to ask that question. Are we who we say we are? Did you get what we promised you? And if not, help us be better. That's how you build trust, is by being honest with people. Another thing that can happen when you're moving this quickly is loyalty can start to suffer a little bit, because you may have some employees who feel like they're not getting the attention that they used to, right? You're not valuing what I do anymore. I don't get the one-on-one time with you that I used to get. Now I talk with your director instead of the VP, or the manager instead of the director. Things like that start to happen as you grow and get bigger and bigger. And employees may feel disconnected. Managers may feel disconnected. And I know this is a lot of what some people would call soft skill stuff, but these are the things that keep your good employees engaged and keep them in your business. So they're really important. Also, employees may not get to know each other as well. I talked with a friend recently whose company has doubled in size in the last year. And he said, sometimes we're on a meeting introducing new employees, and it's all remote, like a Zoom meeting. And I have to wait to see which person speaks so I can learn which person that is that I'm introducing, because I've never actually even met them and I don't know who they are. That can happen as your business grows. So every effort you can make to connect with people and get to know them, phone calls, video meetings, in-person meetings, if you're capable of doing that, are great now. I think a lot of people are hungry for those. What also can happen the quicker you move is you get some problems with quality. You get things with turnover. You get more claims. You get a lot of the issues that you're trying to avoid, but some of this may happen due to that. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to address those as well. I hope you're still with me. One of the things I learned when I was a new HR guy, and I got into HR because I was terrible at selling windows. I was hired for a lumber company as a salesperson to sell windows to commercial builders. I knew nothing about windows, was not selling any windows, but at the same time, I have kind of a smart mouth, and I was complaining to the owners of the company that the managers really hadn't been trained and didn't know what they were doing. And so I said, okay, smart guy, you're right out of college, have never managed anyone in your life, but you're giving us advice on how to manage people. So they said, you are now our training director and our safety director, which falls into our HR department. And I said, okay, that's better than getting fired, which I probably would have been because I was not selling windows. And so that's how I got into HR way back in the day. That was like 1995. And the company had a couple hundred employees and grew to about 800 employees over the 9 years that I was there. One of the things I learned is when we had about 50 employees, I knew everybody's name because I was the HR guy, and I met them all through the onboarding orientation process. Then when we had 100, 200, even at that point, I still knew almost every person's name because I had met all of them coming in. I was a part of that hiring process, everything. But once you get over 150, 200 employees, it starts to get much, much harder, especially in a remote world. And all of a sudden, everybody was like, hey, man. What's up, man? Thanks, man. How are you? Because I'm a Georgia guy. I say man a lot. Hey, man. And I couldn't remember everybody's names. It just got harder and harder. And that happens as you grow. You've got to make an effort, an intentional effort, to get to know, especially the people that are working for you, the people on your team. Don't just talk business with them. Talk to them about their lives. There's a lot of literature now about we bring our whole selves to work, and there's less talk about this work-life balance thing because now that's all blurred and it's like everything comes together. We bring our personal lives into work, and whatever we're dealing with all the time. And we work all the time. We all have our cell phones with us. We have our laptops with us. So there really isn't a big separation anymore between work and personal life. We just have to learn how they mesh together and how to manage our time and how to do it more effectively. Part of that is, how do you connect with your employees? How do you build relationships with them? And sometimes you have to take a breath. My employees will stop me sometimes and say, Scott, and how are you? Because I will just start right in talking about work. And I've got to learn to take a breath, step back and go, hey, tell me about what's going on in your life, and work on that relationship as well. When you have new employees come in, have them connected with another person on your team, whether you want to call it a peer, a mentor, a coach, call it whatever you want. But have them connect with someone so that they have a person to call and talk to that's not their boss. And they could just say, tell me the unwritten rules. Tell me, why did my boss, shake their head when I said this or said that? Like, give them connections. Here at Thread, when a new employee starts, we have about a 2-week onboarding program, which seems long, but everything in there is essential. And we can't do it in a time that's shorter than that without skipping stuff. So we set up one-to-one meetings. We have department meetings. They meet with each department. They learn what everybody does. They learn what we're about. They learn the roles. They learn our values. They learn our processes. They go through all of this stuff, and then they start doing the job they were hired to do, but not before they go through all of those other processes and have a chance to really connect and get to know our team. Really, really important. We even assign what we call thread connections each week, one-on-one connections between all of our existing employees, so that we have a coffee or a phone call, one-on-one meeting to get to know each other better, because we're growing at Thread. We are in the middle of this. Everything I'm talking about, we're in the middle of. We are growing like crazy. We are hiring salespeople and payroll people and HR people. I mean, we're going for it. So we're experiencing all of the things that I'm talking about, and we're doing a pretty good job, I think, of our candidate experience and our employee experience. And so that's why I'm sharing some of these tips with you. And these are the things that we want to help you do in your business. One of the other challenges, and one of the biggest challenges, is resistance to change. And you're going to see this in multiple ways. Now, it might not be so obvious as someone speaking up and saying, I don't like this, I'm not happy with what's going on, right? That's not always going to happen. But you will start to see behavioral changes. Sometimes in certain employees, you might sense resistance in terms of, normally I speak up in our meetings and I contribute, but now I just show up and I sit there silently during the whole meeting, right? That's a sign, something to pay attention to. Normally I volunteer for things. I'm not volunteering anymore because I don't want to be a part of this cause. You can pick up on those type of behaviors. I mean, the extreme end is like sabotage, right? I'm going to try to sabotage this effort. And for those of y'all who are older like me, you've been around long enough that you've seen that and you know what I'm talking about. It does actually happen sometimes, believe it or not. But when you're growing, there's so much change going on that you're going to be fighting this the whole time. And you can make it much easier on yourself by being as transparent as you possibly can be. Just be honest with everybody about what's going on and why it's happening. It's as simple as that. Now, I've worked with a bunch of different companies, and so I know that there are some company owners who are comfortable with this and are very progressive and are like, hey, no question is off limits. Come to me. I'll tell you everything I can tell you. And if I can't tell you, I'll tell you why I can't tell you. And that's a legit response. And if an employee says, well, why are you paying for this service, right? And you can say, look, I'm not ready to share all of the details on why we're doing that, but I will be able to talk about that next month once it's finalized. But here's my intention for that service, or what's prompted me to do it. And I promise you, I will follow up and share all of that with you next month. That's an okay answer. But you've got to be as transparent as you can. You got to share the plan with your employees. This is where we're going and why we're going there. So at Thread, the message we're talking about with all of our teammates is, hey, we're going to grow. That means that it's going to be harder, right? Our sales folks are going to bring in more sales, which means it's going to be more work for our operations team, but we're going to provide support for you as we grow. We're going to come up on new challenges as we get new clients. That always happens. We're going to have new services, which creates new challenges, but we're going to rise to those opportunities. And the reason we're doing this is because Thread has been a smaller business and we want to grow so we can create growth opportunities and development opportunities for our team members, for our employees, and we want to help more companies. That's what we're about. So we're honest about why we're doing this. what it's going to feel like, and then we have options. So if you have concerns, if you're not happy with something, you come to us. You come to any of us. We're going to talk about it. These are the people who are designated to respond to you. Have a reporting procedure, a concern, a question process. Have people that your employees feel comfortable talking to. If you have the kind of management that works on fear or intimidation, that's not going to help in the growth process. If you're not open to listening to questions and concerns from employees, that's going to work against you during this process. So if you want to grow successfully and profitably, then you've got to be open to answering questions and be honest and be transparent. Provide the why. Why are we doing this? Answer that question. And then you move into planning for contingencies to address the issues that are going to come up. I was on a webinar the other day where it was really interesting at the SHRM conference, SHRM Atlanta, and the presenter was talking about Gen Z, Gen Y, these younger generations, right? And what they want to hear is, what is your purpose? What's the purpose of this job? What is the purpose of your company? What are you really about? What do you stand for? How do you help the community? All of those things are really important. So how does that translate to you, right? Okay, reality is, what are you posting in a job posting? Are you listing just all your job description? Because people who are applying for that job, they probably already know what the job is. Listing all the duties of the job is not a great way to post a job. That's what most companies do, but there's a way to do it better. Why don't instead you have a short job posting that talks about what you're about and what the new candidate is going to be joining, what they're going to become a part of. That's really important. And also, you're going to need to look ahead to what are the intended consequences and the unintended consequences of any incentives that you create along the way. So resistance to change, the best way to deal with that is to be honest and transparent. Don't put a spin on everything. Employees will see right through that. And it may be uncomfortable for you to do this, but it's worth the effort, and you can talk to me or our team or anybody else if you need help on how to do this. Rumors are worse than truth. And, we've talked about being honest about your challenges, your goals, your successes, your mistakes. If you're a supervisor or manager, what makes you a human being is acting like a human being. If you pretend that you're always right and you never get it wrong and you don't make mistakes, that doesn't help you. It helps you to connect to your employees when you go, you know what, I screwed up, or I gave you poor advice, or you were right, I was wrong. Give me some input. How can I better support you? Be a human being. That's how you connect to people. Just be real. Stop trying to be something that you're not, right? We all make mistakes. Rumors can really hurt the process. We've talked about how do you minimize that. One of my clients had a great way of dealing with rumors. And what they would do is anybody in the office who kind of had a corporate, had the ear of the CEO or the in-house counsel, people like that, whenever people came to them and started talking rumors or whatever, they would say, you need to talk to so-and-so about that. And the so-and-so was the person that they knew they would not go talk to about that, because it was like, then they're going to know I'm gossiping around the office and we're not supposed to gossip. And it just kind of put an end to it. So if you don't participate in it, that's how you put an end to gossiping, is you say, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And what I used to do, when I had a bunch of employees that I was managing, is when one employee came in and started talking about another employee and she does this or he does that or whatever, I'd say, well, let's have him in here, or let's have her in here. And the three of us as adults, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about the issue and the problem, not the person. And we're going to address the problem and the issue, and we're going to deal with that. And people would start squirming, but they knew if they came to me gossiping or whatever about somebody else, I was going to bring that other person in the room and we were going to deal with it on the spot, and it was going to be over in 10 minutes and it wasn't going to drag out, because I'm not going to play that game. And you shouldn't have to deal with that either, right? So just be honest and try to not let rumors grow. If you don't address the questions and the issues and concerns that employees have, you're going to be dealing with a lot of gossip and a lot of rumors, and rumors are usually worse than the truth. So that's how you avoid that stuff. Now, another big issue that happens, hope you're with me, stick with me here. State laws and federal laws and compliance with employment laws. Now, at the time of this recording, we have a new president who has so far made over 50 changes to employment laws and is ready to make many, many more this year. So get ready for the ride. That's what happens when administrations change is the new administration goes, I'm going to change everything the last person did, right? So we're in that right now. The federal laws are even being adjusted and tweaked, and there are court cases that are changing the intents of some of these laws, and those interpretations change what employers are expected to do. And groups like the Department of Labor and OSHA and National Labor Relations Board, they will enforce these laws based not just on the way the law was originally written, but also on case law, which means the way judges decide cases that help interpret the gray areas of these laws. So that's why HR geeks like me are always paying attention to these court cases and saying, oh my gosh, this means this means that. And paying attention to all of this stuff is extremely difficult if it's not your full-time job. This is one of the reasons that a lot of companies pay for us, to help give them HR support, is they say, we need your help keeping up with all of this stuff. So you're going to have compliance issues that you did not have as you grow. When you hit 20 employees, even 15. So once you hit 15 employees, you have new compliance issues. Now you're under Title VII. You're under the Americans with Disability Act. You're under the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act. You're under the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. Then all of a sudden you hit 20 employees. Now you're under COBRA, Continuation of Benefits. And how do we deal with that? You're under the Age Discrimination and Employment Act. How do we avoid discrimination and exposure and that kind of stuff? Then you get to 50 employees, and now you're dealing with the Family Medical Leave Act, or PPACA, or the Mental Health Parity Act. Then you hit 100 employees, and you're dealing with the EEO-1 reports, the WARN Act, which is when you have to give advance notice of like business closures or branch shutdowns and things like that. There is a insane amount of information to keep up with to comply with employment laws. And you have safety under OSHA. OSHA has a national emphasis program where they're going to be enforcing COVID protocols and safety protocols, and they're going to be writing citations just all over the place because it's very, very difficult to do it all. So, this is one of the things we do to help our clients as much as we can is we look at your classifications for employees. We look at, and we're going to talk about that. We look for your, Fair Labor Standards Act, which enforces the wage and hour laws. We look at all of these other things to say, where do you have exposure to help you fill the gaps for compliance? You determine how much risk you're comfortable with as a business owner, as an executive in your business, but we give you the advice and the guidance you need to make those decisions and tell you where you have exposure and where you don't. We help you understand things like, hey, there's a lot of noise in the media. And of course, the media sells fear. So they want to hype everything up and make it seem like it's terrifying all the time. And we help our clients understand what matters and what doesn't, when to pay attention and when to ignore it, when action is required, and that kind of thing. So, you need resources to help you with all this. You need to know what the basic federal laws are that apply to your business based on the size that you are, but also on the size that you're going to be as you grow, because you need to prepare for that and have processes in place. You may have a payroll platform that works great right now, but when you hit 100 employees, 200 employees, it's not going to get you there. It's not going to be enough, because as you grow, you're going to need paperless onboarding, paperless performance review, automatic reminders to your managers. You're going to need to track licensing. You're going to need all of these things and reporting that captures your turnover issues and graphs that make it quick, like a dashboard view as quick as possible. All of that stuff you're going to need as you grow. So look ahead to all of those situations as you grow. Your employee handbook is very important as a tool when it comes to compliance, because you can get a multi-state employee handbook that's going to cover all your policies, your practices, and it's going to help you as a tool to educate your employees as a group. Now, one of the things we do with all of our clients is we say, we've updated your handbook, we've revised all your policies, we've assigned it in your new hire onboarding for all your new hires. We've added it to your onboarding for all of your active employees so they can sign an acknowledgement. Now, I know from experience as an HR guy that nobody reads a handbook. We put days and months of work into these things, and then nobody reads it. So I know that. I'm aware of that. It's okay. Don't hurt my feelings too much. So what we do is we add the handbook as a course in the learning management system in our platform with our clients, and then assign a test along with it, or a quiz. So every employee has to open that handbook, print it out, or open it up and scroll through it, find the answers to these questions, which are important. So not only did they acknowledge they received it, but they also had to read through it and understand enough to answer these questions and get a certain score on the quiz to pass the quiz, to prove that they understood the expectations relative to these most important policies and values and history and things like that at the company. So there's always one step better in terms of how you can do it, deliver, capture the information, and make sure your employees are trained is really important. So your best practices are important to reduce exposure. Your policies are very important. Doing training and having documented training is important when you get audited. Now, a lot of companies will say, we have all that. But if I go, okay, show me your training records for all your supervisors for the last year. Show me that they got training on sexual harassment. Show me that they understood that training. Show me that they got the safety training they were supposed to get. Show me that they understand how to respond when an employee comes up to them and says, I'm being discriminated against. Show me how they know how to do that, right? Who trained them? On what date? How do they understand what the expected behavior is? All that kind of stuff. You got to go deep into that. If you can't put your hands on that right now, then you got work to do, and we can help you do that. But knowing what to do and what not to do is important for your supervisors and managers. If they know what to say and what not to say, that's very important, because 9 times out of 10, the folks who really get you in trouble at work are your supervisors. And I'm not blaming your supervisors or your managers. Almost every company we work with, when we start working with them, has done a poor job of training their management team and their supervisors, their team leads, right? They all know how to do the job, but what they don't have training on is how to manage people, how to supervise the people who were my friends and coworkers yesterday and now I'm their boss, how to give constructive criticism, how to say, I need to hold you accountable, how to measure performance. All of that is so important and makes your job and your life so much better. And help your team out by doing that. If you're not doing that, that's a great opportunity for you as you grow. Think about processes for how do we hire people, recruit people, how do we give performance management, what's our leave of absence process, what's our termination process, have we defined how people can grow in our company, and can we do all of this without violating any of these laws, like staying away from the line? Do we know what our exposures are, and how can we do that without creating unnecessary liability for our business? I hope this is helpful as we go along. I'm just thinking of the biggest things that come up in all the companies that I've worked with over the years. So pay-related challenges are a big one. Do not take this lightly. Do not assume that what you're doing is correct. I have started with hundreds of small businesses who say, look, Scott, I know we're hiring you as a consultant and your team's coming in, but we had a VP of HR, we had a team of HR people, or we had somebody who's been here 20 years. Our stuff is solid, right? And I've heard that so many times I cannot count. And then almost every time I've gone in and the I-9s are all wrong, the application has questions on it that it should not have, the training is old, the information is incorrect, There's stuff in the handbook that should not be there that's creating a liability. There are people who are misclassified in their jobs in terms of exempt or non-exempt or independent contractor or employee. And there's just stuff all over the place. It's the same things we see over and over again when I start with new businesses, no matter what the industry is. I've seen this so many times. But the biggest one to watch out for is these pay-related challenges. So you've got to make sure that you're tracking time and entering time properly so that you're capturing all of the time you're supposed to capture so that people get paid for it. Hourly employees, here's all you need to remember for hourly employees. Track all of your time, pay all of the time they're owed, including overtime, and don't ever deduct their check below minimum wage. If you do those 4 things, you're going to be good 99% of the time with your hour employees. Track all of the time worked, pay for all of the time worked, including overtime, and don't deduct below minimum wage. Just remember those 4 things for your hourly employees, and you're pretty good for most of that. So time tracking is important. And part of that is not just the software. Part of that is educating your employees to go, hey, if you're a maintenance guy at a apartment complex and you come in on Sunday and clean up the grounds a little bit, you need to track that time and add it to your clock so you get paid for it, right? Do you know the pay ranges for each one of your positions? One of the things that happens as you grow is sometimes the pay starts to get a little wonky. And I've seen this so many times where the company owner goes, when I started, I would just go, you're doing a good job. Here's a raise. Or you doing this? And I didn't want to lose people. I couldn't afford to lose people. So I started giving them raises. Now I've got some people who are way overpaid in the positions. And then I hire new people and I'm trying to pay them less because I can't afford it. All these issues happen to everybody. So start to think about what's a realistic pay range compared to the market rate. What do I want it to be? And what can I do as a business? You don't always have to pay more than everybody else. If you can't afford that, you can pay a competitive rate and you can offer other things that are better, more flexibility, better benefits, better managers, a better culture. All of those things matter to people. And sometimes they'll say it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's being at a place that I don't dread on Sunday nights. And if you can create the kind of culture where employees don't get a pit in their stomach on Sunday night before they come to work on Monday, then you're making progress. Job classifications are a big deal. So get those classifications correct with exempt and non-exempt. Every company I've ever worked with pushes to have some positions salaried exempt when they should not be. That's up to you. If you own the business, go for it. We don't argue. That's the joy of being a consultant is I give my advice and you can ignore it or take it. It's up to you. So I don't have to battle with anybody about it, but this creates pretty big exposure for your business if these are not right, and they are often not right. So talk to your attorney, talk to your HR consultant, call us if you need help with this, and we'll help you with this to get those right. If you have wage and hour claims, so wage and hour claim is somebody says, look, we're not being paid right. Our overtime is wrong. The restaurant's making us pool our tips. That's a big deal now in certain states. They gave me a bonus, but didn't add the bonus to my regular hourly pay to do the overtime catch up for me. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I mention that, call me and let's talk about it because that's an area of exposure. I have had companies who have had class action wage and hour lawsuits over time that we help them with a wage claim. This is the big challenge. Let's say you owe an employee $500, literally, like you failed to pay $500, it got missed. Well, they hire an attorney, they come to you, you owe me $500. Now they're going to say, how many employees do you have that are in the same job as this employee? And they're going to look at every one of those employees over at least the last 2 years. They will try to go back 3 years, but usually it'll be 2 years. Then they're going to say that one employee that you owed $500, now all these other employees are in the mix. So now we're talking, $8,000, let's say, right? Overall. And some of you might go, okay, we would write a check for $8,000 and it would hurt, but we'll pay them what we owe them. And that's the end of it. That's not how it works. Once that claim is in there, it's in there. So now, because you should have known, even if you didn't, how to pay people properly, that $8,000 gets doubled usually to $16,000. They're going to ask to triple it, but usually it'll get doubled. Then you're going to have penalties on top of that for not paying them properly, for violating these laws. Then if you lose this case, even if it's for $1, let's say you owe $1. If you lose that wage claim for $1, that attorney gets paid attorney's fees. And I have seen clients and had clients who had a wage claim where they paid like a couple $1,000 is what the employees got owed. But then the attorney's fees were $50,000, $60,000. And those get paid too. So it's not what you owe the employees that gets you, it's the attorney's fees that kill you. The plaintiff's attorneys win in these cases. They all walk away rich, and the companies get screwed, the employees get the few dollars they were owed, and the attorneys make their living. So this is how this happens. It's better to avoid these. It's a problem for everyone. So avoid wage claims if you can. If you're deciding to audit yourself for pay inequity, in other words, are men making more than women in the same job or anything like that, do that under attorney-client privilege. So you have the opportunity to correct that situation with attorney guidance, and so that what you discover in that audit is not discoverable to everyone, okay? Look up the state laws for final pay. California, you may have to pay someone the day they're walking out the door with a live check. Other states, you have 2 weeks or next pay period, but you need to know what those rules are for the final paycheck in the state you're in. Also, have your managers been trained on this? Do they understand all of the wage and hour compliance issues? Most of the time, I can answer this question for you. They have not. So if you're not doing that, build that into the training program for your managers to avoid this. The bigger you get, the bigger a target you are. If you have company vehicles, for example, now your trucks are seen going up and down the highway because you're getting more business, more accounts, you have more drivers. And if people get in a wreck with your truck, used to be a little fender bender, they'd call the owner, you'd work it out, no big deal. That doesn't happen anymore. Now people see dollar signs because they see the name of the truck and the company, and they say, this company has more money than the individual, and they're going to go after the company. That's what happens. I've seen it so many times. Also, remember we talked about that employee turnover as you grow, right? What happens when you have more and more turnover is you have less and less loyalty to your company, because the smaller amount of time that people stay, the less likelihood is that they understand what you're really about and buy into that and become a part of it. So they're like, you know what? I'm not even tied to this company. I'll just take a shot. I'll throw something against the wall, see if it sticks. And if it does, hey, I make a few $1,000 on a nuisance settlement. And if not, no big deal. All I had to do was make a phone call and have a meeting to get it started. So all of these things will start to happen. You've all heard about famous people. Once they get money and everybody knows who they are, all of a sudden they're getting sued right and left for stuff that doesn't even exist because people are just trying to make a quick buck. That happens in business as well, unfortunately. So I throw this in just to remind you that this is a reality of getting bigger, and what you have to do is be better, be more prepared, be intentional about how you're going to grow. Make sure you're in compliance in the areas that you want to be. Have your processes documented. Have people who are smart enough and organized enough to protect you and to help you hire great employees and develop your employees in a way that they stick with you, because in retaining good employees will make all the difference as you grow. Okay, we're getting there, folks. Stick with me. I know I talk a lot. It's one of my issues. But I get excited, and I talk a lot when I get excited, and I love helping small and growing businesses. It's kind of what drives me. This is a sample EEO policy, Equal Employment Opportunity Policy. And I put this up there so you could look at it and compare it to your own policy to say, is my policy out of date now? These things change every year. They just get bigger. They keep getting little words getting added to it. The newest words that are added to this policy are when it says basically, we don't discriminate on the basis of, right? And it used to say race, color, religion, sex, pregnancy, age, like that. So now we've added gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, which are all protected under Title VII in terms of the word sex now. So gender identity is how someone how I think of myself, how I feel about myself as a sex, right? My gender. Gender expression is how I choose to express that. What do I show you in terms of what do I wear, my makeup, my hair, how I talk, move, all of those things, dress, all of that is gender expression. But those are separate from sexual orientation. So sometimes people think, oh, if you're a man dressing as a woman, you must be attracted to men or whatever, but that's not the case. And so gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation are all separate things. And I know that can be challenging and confusing, but that is a part of the EEO policy. And so you need to understand what that is and what it means, and what it means to your workforce, and how do you continue to respect everyone you've got. And remember, early on, I talked about how we bring our whole selves to work, right? If you have employees who are having to pretend to be someone they're not when they're at work, then you've got a conflict, a lack of congruence there. If you're able to create the kind of workplace where your employees can be exactly who they are and who they want to be, then you're creating a great, respectful culture that has a chance there. So pay attention to your policies, make sure they're up to date, but also make sure that it's compliant and accurate, and it reflects how you operate in your business, that it's real, it's not just talk, and that your supervisors and managers understand this and what it means, how it translates to the way they manage and supervise and work with employees. That's important. You always have to start with, here's what the law says. This is what this means for you. This is what you need to know on a practical day-to-day basis. This is what you need to do or not do, say or not say relative to this. And that's how you train people. Take all the fluff out of it and give them real advice. If anybody comes to your supervisor or manager with a complaint or concern, what your supervisors and managers should be trained to say is thank you. Not, hey, get back to work, or brush it off, or you're being too sensitive, or you got to have thick skin around here. All of those are bad responses. Your manager should say, thank you for telling me about that. Thank you for sharing your concerns. Let's follow up. Please put that in writing so I get as many details as can. Give me the exact words that were used, or the description of the date, or anything like that. Go from there. Treat it respectfully, professionally, and follow up. All right, so what do we do about all this stuff? Let's recap a little bit, and then we'll start to wind this up, because I know we're getting close. You got to know what your plan is ahead of time. That's the hard work, is working on the business, not in the business. Am I aware of what's coming, and how can I get prepared for it? So take the time. You got to do an offsite or do whatever you need to do as a management team, leadership team, to say, what are our opportunities as we grow? What's going to be a challenge for us as we grow? What do we need to fix now? What matters? What doesn't matter? Where are our weaknesses? How can we buffer that? As a team, are there new positions we're going to need that we don't have now, that we haven't thought of? Are there new problems that are going to come to the surface now that we didn't have before? And how are we going to address those? So you need to identify as many of those contingencies as you can and have contingency plans. Be prepared ahead of time for what you're going to do. I mentioned the National Emphasis Program with OSHA. They are coming. They're going to be doing a lot of inspections and enforcement now. And are you prepared for that? Do you have a plan already in place? If we had a OSHA inspection, here's the drill. Let's have a drill. Let's know what we're going to do. Pretend I'm the OSHA inspector. I show up. What are you going to do? What are you going to say? If I showed up today, can you show me your written safety plan, your OSHA logs and summaries for the past 5 years? Can you tell me where your safety training is? Can you show me the records of that? Can you show me your PPE program, your respiratory protection program? Can you show me that you've done fit testing for people who have to wear those respirators, or people in the warehouse? Have you done your forklift training and your inspections? There's so much to it, and that's just OSHA. So you got to really take the time to think through this stuff if you want to be ready. You have to be able to locate all of those records and things and put them in front of the OSHA officer. And that's just an example. Define what you need to succeed. So be ready. Is your office space going to change? Is your onboarding plan going to change for new employees? Is your performance management process going to change as you grow? Be willing to try new things. If it doesn't work, no biggie, go back. Do something different. Just keep trying it until it works. Just have the guts to do that. And then remember that your processes are really important, that you document your processes. We use a program called Suite Process here at Thread, and also Teamwork Projects to manage how we work along and how the team works together. And our teams have visibility into those programs so that we can see how we should be doing it and who should be doing each thing along the way. And those are liquid processes. In other words, we tweak them all the time to make them better, to reflect what we actually do as we go along. When you hire new employees, can you show them the path of career growth in your company right now? Can you show them how they can develop, how they can get from A to B to C to D? If you cannot do that, that's something you need to start working on now. All of the younger generation expects this. And now, even folks my age, I'm 51, have said, you know what, that's a good idea. I want that too. And so they have made us smarter in that way, because now most of your candidates are asking for this. Okay, here's the job I'm applying for. Once I get there, once you accept me, what's the next step and how do I get there? Because I want to make money. I want to grow. I want to develop. I want to keep doing that. If you have those opportunities in your business, people will stay and they'll continue to grow within your organization. If you don't, they'll go as far as they can go, and then they may be satisfied, or they may leave and go somewhere else. So you can create opportunities. It's not always just money. Sometimes it's a different position. Sometimes it's added responsibility or different responsibility, or working with a different team. Back in the 90s, I remember I was at a truck driver safety meeting for a lumber company at 5:30 in the morning. We're talking about safety. And I'm having donuts with the drivers, and we're talking and getting to know the drivers a little bit. One of the drivers says, I got this hobby and it's called websites. And literally this is like the same year that I got my first computer. So I had no idea what a website was. This is how long ago this was. And our truck driver said, I have this hobby. So he starts telling me what a website is. I see, that sounds like something we should probably have, So we talking with his manager, talking with the owner of the company. About a week later, he was no longer a truck driver. He was in charge of building the website for this lumber company, who ended up having one of the first websites of any lumber company in America at the time, and one of the best websites that just developed because we were so far ahead of the competition when it came to that, because most people weren't even aware what it was yet. And that's an example of the kind of opportunity that you might not expect, but was created by getting to know somebody a little bit and learning what their strengths were and their interests were. So be able to define that path and say, here's what you need to know, and here's what you need to be able to do to be eligible for this next position. So now it's up to you. How are you going to learn that? How can we help you get there? Create that path and help them get there so you can attract and retain the best talent. Okay, I think this is almost the last slide here. So we're getting there, folks. This is the wrap-up part. Look at your processes, look at your policies, look at your training, identify your compliance gaps when it comes to all those federal laws, all of the state laws. They are changing all of the time. I get probably 3 or 4 updates per week of state laws that are changing, tweaks to federal laws, new paid sick leave, new coronavirus related stuff. All of these things are coming out all of the time. So if you're not able to keep up with all of that by yourself, get help so that you can do all that. It's very affordable. Working with us will not break the bank. It's like, paying a part-time employee, but you get a team of people who have years and years of experience, who are certified HR folks, and we will help you update your forms, update your policies, make sure they're effective and efficient and compliant. We'll help you communicate clearly, be proactive and bold, be confident and strong enough to grow and make the decisions you need to make to support your team and your business and to get where you want to get. Make sure your supervisors and managers are trained to respond appropriately when there are issues, because there will be issues, there will be challenges, and you want to have your team prepared to handle those professionally and appropriately so they don't create more exposure for your company, which means a lot of time and money wasted with claims and issues along the way. Also, a lot of frustration with your team. You want your employees to work in a place where they feel included, feel comfortable, feel like they have opportunities, feel valued, and all of that. But you also have to hold them accountable and teach them that, they're expected to perform, because we're all about high performance, high culture companies. That's how you get there. So have as much fun as you can along the way. And I appreciate your time today. If you have any questions after the fact, feel free to reach out to me. My email is right there on the slide. Email me directly. I'll send you a link to my calendar, and we can schedule some time together. So thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.